Let's see if I'm going live this time. Am I live? I guess I am live now. All right. I am an hour late. That's great. That's all right. Nobody watches anyway. Hi everybody. I'm Ubercoo, and this is the second time I try to go live. Apparently, I did not hit the live button. I did not realize that, and I've been talking for an hour, not realizing that I haven't been live. So I went through the entire movie series. I went through part one, the good, the bad. Then I talked about Tom Cruise and his the time we shall not talk about, and then I talked about I was almost near the end of the movie, like into the second movie. I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What? I'm not live? What?" Okay, so let me close this out. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I am flabbergasted that I've been talking for an hour, and like I have not been on recording this, and I'm in shock now. But so let me go at this one more time. Wow, how about that? How about that? Now, yes, let me get back on track. But I'm Ubercoo. Thank you for coming to the channel. Um, Please like, subscribe, do all the fun things that the people of YouTube require. I really appreciate it. And then I do like to have a back and forth. And if you join my channel, please stay. We'll talk about Top Gun, good movie, both movies, favorite scenes, and things like that. All right. Let me just grab my phone real quick. Okay. I really appreciate it. And then I do like to have a back and forth. And if you join my channel, please stay. We'll talk about Top Gun. Alright, so just want to make sure I'm still going. Alright, now, what was I saying? I still can't believe I was talking for like an hour. And where is it? Yeah. Anyway, let me start back with the first movie. I really enjoyed it. I watched it last week. I didn't get to. Last time I watched the first movie was probably in the mid '90s, or it's been out for 30 years, so I've seen it, bits and pieces of it here and there. But I remember watching it when I was a kid. Like my parents watched it, and I thought it was a cool movie for being, for having jets and fighter jets and stuff like that, and I remember the love song for some reason. I was born in '83, and this movie came out in '86. So it was kind of a real impressionable time, and it's just when you're a kid, you remember some things but not other things. But that one love song that they have in the movie is one thing that I remember. And let's see what else here. So this film is definitely a product of its era, but it's also well written in that there is not any fat to the movie. It goes from one thing to the next pretty well. I think there's not many. You can re-edit it. It's not a perfect movie by means or anything like that, but I think it's really well structured for the emotional beats. And speaking of, the thing I like about the first movie is that there's three main emotional beats that Maverick has to deal with. He has to deal with. At first, you find out he has to live up to the past of his father, and you think the story is he died, and he basically took the hit. He was seen as a bad pilot or something, and so there was a stain on his record basically, and so he wanted to make up for it. He wanted to be better than his dad, right? That's his source. Okay, that's the first obstacle. That's the first emotional beat. The second emotional beat is he's also falling in love with Charlie, and also in the third emotional beat is, and now this is a spoiler, and I'm gonna get into spoiler territory. Now again, this is 30 years old. If you haven't seen Top Gun by now, go watch it, kid. This movie, so Goose dies. Is what I'm trying to say. Goose dies in the film, and that's the third like emotional thing he has to deal with. So I really like how there's a ebb and flow of emotional beats that happens throughout the film, and it keeps the film going, right? And it's not just him. There's also the emotional beats of Goose with his family. So there's that connection. It's like you can always find something relatable between each of the characters, right? Goose has his family. Maverick has his best friend. Maverick has a mentor through what's his name, Tom Skerritt, and let me pull his name back up here. Here we go. Top Gun, 1986. What did I say? Skerritt. Yeah, Tom Skerritt. So, yeah, and then he's got the rival for through Val Kilmer and Iceman, right? So, like, there's all these different relatable story elements that somebody can find enjoyable, right? Um, there's there's even when he gets emotional with Charlie and like they start to get to know each other, and there's that great scene where they're at her house, and then she wants to or excuse me, he wants to take a shower, and then like they start talking later, and then he starts talking about his mom and like listen to that old music, and it's a nice vulnerable scene, and like the relationship between the two, I actually liked it. I really liked their chemistry between the two actors. um, One thing that in because it was of that time, and his character plays very cocky and very forward and dominant, like trying to go after her. I mean, the great scene of where they're singing at the bar, and like that's a bit convenient, right? It's a bit convenient for them to all start singing together. Somebody made a fill, a construction, what I call a movie construction worker filled in the plot hole of of the movie, where it's like, well, they're all in the Navy and they're all teammates, so they would do something like that. I'm like, no, you're stretching it. Maybe, and like if they're super fucking drunk, like it's midnight or 1 a.m. before the bar's ready to close, and they all get together and do it, then maybe, but not the way it was set up in the movie. You have the, but you have his, yeah. He's very straightforward in trying to go after Kelly McGillis, right? And even the point where he walks right into the woman's bathroom to talk to her, and he tries to force himself that way. Now, it's maybe they were trying to do that so that way it shows how cocky he is and how forward he is and things like that, but it doesn't necessarily hold up in today's standards. So there is that, but I think it's interesting of that character choice. Now, I'll say this is that throughout the movie, there's a lot of static sexuality throughout the film. Whether it's like the volleyball scene or like the relationship between Maverick and Charlie, or like, or even a little bit with Goose. There's a little bit of Goosey Goose, and he is the whole movie is written that way. So I don't understand that myself. It's not that I don't like it or anything. It's just I don't understand the reference choice to make that in the film. Like, I guess they need Beefcake in the volleyball scene. That makes sense. They wanted to get the girls to come, and then also with, I guess the idea was like writing the movie. I can see where they want, especially for that time, they want something for both men and women to enjoy in the film, right? There's the romantic love relationship that happens, which is a great part of the movie. There's the guy stuff where they're trying to, with the whole military and everything. So like they're trying to appeal to both audiences of that era with that type of writing. Okay, so that's kind of how it's all structured, and it's not necessarily a hard sell of a movie, right? It's fairly basic. You've got your basic story elements. Like I said, like you've got the rival, you've got the mentor, you've got the best friend, you've got the best friend's family, and like so, there's very basic story structure that you can play around with a lot. And then so for the best friend to die, and for him to overcome that is a great writing emotional beat. You have something that the main lead can overcome while still trying to overcome his professional career. So there's a lot of that, and that's what makes it such a great ending to that movie. Because he not only does he come back and he overcomes his fear, and then he comes saves the day, right? Um, that's probably the better parts of the film. And then of course you have the negatives of the film where you've got like again like I said the over objectification, and of the over sexuality in the film. There's and when I say that, that's not what I mean. I don't mean like over sexuality. I'm saying there's some undertones to the film, which is and most people say that, not just myself. So I'm trying to think about other negatives. I don't remember any like outright stereotypes that I can think of offhand. If there was, maybe there was. I didn't see anything. Stuff like that, right? I didn't see anything that was overt. Um, again, I think that's what makes it such a good movie is that it was a lot of it happened to do with the story. There wasn't personal messages getting in the way of the film. It was about getting the mission and trying to be the best in Top Gun and like trying to get the girl and like um, I thought it was more of a basic story for that era. Now, now I will say it probably could have been a little shorter. The first one, I think that it probably could have been a little bit shorter. They could have trimmed it a little bit. Not much. There was some scenes where like um, because I heard there's the one scene where they get into an argument. She chases after him, and the next scene is they're actually in an elevator together. So apparently, what I found out was that scene in the elevator was actually recorded after the movie was made, and they had to re-edit it so, to give that little filler of like otherwise it would have went from them going into an argument to some other scene that like it just wouldn't match up, right? They had to have a middle chunk in there to for it to work. So they I, they are kind of like that, right? I think there's moments like that where the editing could have been a little better. I think it could have been a little cleaned up more. Um, but other than that, I mean, the story is there. The story is positive. The story works, and but I would say even the visuals are pretty good for the time. I mean, they did a lot of quick edits because they had to. Um, apparently, they only had to use. There was only two missiles that they recorded, and then so they had to reuse footage for that. But I guess they did what they could, and like the whole opening scene, both movies is it really sets the pace for the film. Um, like that what's it Danger Zone, that whole scene, right, from the very beginning, it really does set you up for that story, and it really gives it a nice beat by beat that you can follow. Um, And that's what I can really say about the first one. I really liked Strickler. What's his name? James Token as Stinger in the film. I love Tom Skerritt as Viper and Michael Ironside as Jester, and I didn't, and it's most people didn't realize, and including myself, is that Tim Robbins is in the film, and like the only part I remember him seeing him outright was at the end of the film when everybody's celebrating, and then but before that, the only time I seen him was he had his face mask on for the to breathe air, and so yeah, I didn't, I guess, I mean, there's a few other people in this film. Meg Ryan, I thought Meg Ryan had some great moments in this film. The relationship between her and Goose was great. Those lines, people of that generation, they still might quote those lines from that movie because the writing was really well done in that aspect. IMDb, it has a 6.9 rating out of 10. I wouldn't go that low. To me, and that's 345,000 people rated that. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a 6.9 myself. I would say more like a 7.23, somewhere around there. But I think it gets more. I think it gets a worse slack or it gets more of a. It just gets a bad rap for being part of the '80s, and it's very '80s. It's very of that era. That's all I gotta say about the first one. Let me go into the time that shall not be spoken. Yes, the time that shall not be spoken is 2 years ago when it began, and I guess it's still going on. So Tom Cruise, I've always respected Tom Cruise, where you have to have a difference between when it comes to Tom Cruise, I have to take the stance of separating the art from the artist. I don't believe what he believes personally, and but the man knows how to make a movie. You know what I'm saying? He knows his work, and that's what I truly appreciate. That and the fact that he can also make fun of himself at times, like when he played Austin Powers, which was hilarious, and Les Grossman in Tropic Thunder was great. So there's those scenes. So he can play off himself at times, right? And even in Jerry Maguire, there was a lot of comedy involved with that too, and so I thought that was really great. Um, yeah, but and then he came out with there was that release of him going off on some other people in the while making was Mission Impossible or Top Gun. I don't remember which one it was, but it was during the time we shall not speak of, and that was a headline for a minute. But I really appreciate what he had to say in that because it made sense. At that time, people didn't know what was going to happen with the movie industry. They were like, well, is everything going to go to streaming? Is it are theaters, are we still going to make movies for theaters? How's this going to happen? And so he incorporated that in his rant that he was going off about. He was really pissed off, but he was making solid points in what he was saying, and I appreciated that. So that really got me on board to, and then I heard not only was because imagine this, imagine if there was so much rumor going around about Doctor Strange that Tom Cruise was going to be in Doctor Strange as Iron Man. Imagine if he was. So Tom Cruise would have been in 3 major hit movies, and probably would have made them better. He probably would have made Doctor Strange better if he was in that movie, because there was a lot of people who went in, including myself, expecting a cameo based on leaks and rumors and all the bad media that comes out, trying to hype the film with, everything under the sun. So that was actually really the letdown for me. I heard there was going to be a lot of different cameos, and there really wasn't. Or at least not on Tom Cruise's level, right? Um, you can argue Theron, but I don't like her in movies. And but when it comes to Tom Cruise, though, yeah, if he was in Doctor Strange, then a few weeks later he's in Maverick, then again a few weeks later he's in Mission Impossible Part One or whatever I forgot what the name of it is, but like, yeah, he'd be killing 2022 right now, right? He would be dominating the box office. Um, I just think that's a missed opportunity. They should have put him in Doctor Strange as Iron Man. Just not even doing much of anything. Like, even if he got killed or, like, something, right? I just think that would have been an amazing cameo. But yeah, that's what I. So now, going into. Let's go into the second movie now. So, Maverick. Maverick was really good. I really enjoyed Maverick, and there is. I thought they were going to do a lot of the same things that, um, and they did. They did a lot of the same beats as the first one, but there was some moments where I thought they would go one route, and then they didn't go that route. So like you get so used to in some movies nowadays, especially like in the Marvel films or something like that, or like superhero films, where they try to subvert expectations, and then they don't really subvert expectations because you're expecting them to subvert expectations. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not doing it. So this is that movie that it did not do that. Like throughout the film, I did like the first time I watched it, I did not feel. I didn't know where this movie was going. Um, I thought that it was playing a lot like the first one, and like, okay, are they gonna still like? I thought to myself, would they still have to do that? Would they still have to do the same beats in order for it to be good? And I don't know. I don't. I think that like if they did do that, I think that would have been short sighted. And I'm glad that they didn't do that. I didn't think they, it's not like what I'm saying is they did. And again, spoiler alert. I don't have any graphics. I gotta do that. So in they don't have a goose that dies in this film. They don't. They don't have a best friend that dies, but they have a couple close calls, which was nice. And so I was thinking to myself, and I think it was Coyote. Coyote was the one who had who passed out, and then was falling, and then finally woke up before he crashed. I wonder if that was a moment when he actually did die, because, and anybody can correct me on this, I thought that in the film, like later on in the film, he's not in it. I thought like I don't know if maybe I missed it, maybe I missed him in the, or like, but I thought Coyote was the one who passed out, and you don't see him for the rest of the film. So maybe that was supposed to be a different scene where he did die. I don't. I honestly don't know. Maybe not. Excuse me. I'm talking for a minute off camera because I forgot to turn it on. Now, the thing I was trying to think about. So what else I like about the film? I really like the love story between Maverick and Jennifer Connelly. I think that was really well done. Um, I really loved Val Kilmer in the film, and especially if you've watched, I would totally recommend watch the Val Kilmer documentary. You don't have to watch it today, or you don't have to watch it beforehand, but it definitely adds a better perspective on his health issues with his voice, and I think it was cancer, but I'm not sure. Uh, but I know that he has a hard time talking, and so how they handled that was really well done. Um, he's using his computer, and he is typing what he has to say to Maverick. They have this really great scene. Even though he's sitting in his chair and he's not really doing much, his presence and his eyes and when you see Val Kilmer, he's still engaged in the moment and he's still acting in that like it. I didn't feel like I was watching Val Kilmer with health problems on screen. I felt like it was just naturally aged and something happened off screen where he just can't talk. They didn't have to bring it up, right? They just went with it. Um, and I thought that was really, really well, tastefully done, and it was a really great emotional scene um, between these two actors, and they've been around, since the '80s, and you can only imagine what career opportunities Val Kilmer would have had if that didn't happen later in his career. Because personally, I love his mid '90s movies. Um, what was it? The Saint. Saint was great. He was really funny and real genius in the '80s. He's actually really funny in The Saint too, where he plays this nerd. Oh God, it's hilarious. And The Doors, when he plays Jim Morrison. I love Jim Morrison in that movie, or I love him as Jim Morrison in that movie. Now I know it's not accurate to the story. I mean, it kind of is. It kind of is, but the problem with the Doors movie is that Oliver Stone is too stylistic for the film, and so there's a lot of that. And the family thought he just made him look like a drunken buffoon. So I still enjoyed the film. I still enjoy The Doors, and I like Val Kilmer's performance of Jim Morrison. Um, and again, that's another movie with him and Meg Ryan, so there's a connection there. So even though they didn't actually have any scenes in Top Gun together, they were in the same movie. Now, but I think about yeah, if he did not have that, what happened to him, then that who knows what type of opportunities he would have had, right? He would have been, I think maybe they would have threw him a Batman, because he was Batman. That's right. I totally forgot. Again, I mentioned that earlier. Yeah, so he not only is he one thing. Last time I did see him before the documentary was the Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie, because he played Blunt Man as a reference to his '90s Batman. Again, another great character I think that's overlooked. I thought he was a great Bruce Wayne. So I think that would have been great for him to come back then. If he would have came back in the 2000s, or something, that would have been great. But I've always been a fan. Or Tombstone, I've always been, yeah, I think he's been an amazing actor, and it was really great seeing him in this film. Who else? I liked how they. I liked how they didn't have Force Ghost, Goose, as in they didn't find a way. They didn't make him an excuse, you heard his voice or something. You know what I'm saying? They didn't force it that way. It was very natural. There was no home video that was found of him or anything like that, right? It was just there was just more talked about references. The only thing I didn't like, one thing I didn't like the Great Balls of Fire scene again. So that's a scene where they could have updated it and they could have had something different. They could have had something more relevant to today. I don't know, what's a popular song of today? I'm not gonna put a guess out there to date myself, but you could fill in the blank. Maybe a Jay-Z song or something. You know what I'm saying? Something that people would know, or even or maybe even a classic '90s song, right? you know, something that's a little like, that was like relatively old from our point of view, but not, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just think that would have been a better thing to do than a direct copy of that piano scene from the first one. I just thought that was, yeah, that's one thing. I'll put that in the negative pile. Um, but most of the things in this movie I really like. I like how when Maverick got shot down and and then it turns into Behind Enemy Lines, right? From Owen Wilson in his movie, which is kind of similar. Like they're both pilots, right, in the Navy. Um, I don't remember his rank in that movie, so Maverick I think is a captain still. So then you got. Um, I like the team. I like the whole team aspect. I thought it was great. They didn't have to focus on one character specifically or another. It was about the team. It was about the mission, and I really appreciated about that. Even the woman on the team, Phoenix, it wasn't like she was overtly hit on like throughout the film. Like it wasn't like this thing of like every dude comes up to her and hits on her that I can remember. You know what I'm saying? And I can see how that would be an easy well for a story written today can go down. Like that can really ruin the movie. Like or it takes away from the main story. You're pulling attention away, right? And it doesn't do that. It doesn't. The characters who are introduced as these characters and only that, and that's the best part about this film. Or like one of the best when it comes to the writing and the writing. So like that's what I really found that was great. It was the one thing I didn't like is the I think I'm gonna hold that. Before I do that, I'm gonna see if there's anything else I liked. I said Jennifer Connelly. I really liked their relationship. I liked how that developed. There was Val Kilmer, the team. Um, Tom Cruise. I think he is really great at this movie, and like he knows how to play it, and the that whole relationship, the romantic relationship, and like the comedic beats in the film were just right. It wasn't overdone. It wasn't over too comedic. They were just in the right spots where they needed to be, and I really appreciated that. Like the scene where he's climbing out of the window and the daughter catches him, and like that was. I mean, like I've seen like people were laughing in the audience in that moment, and there was another scene in the beginning of the film. I forgot what it was. That was a funny moment too. Um, I wish I could remember. But anyway, yeah. So like, it's nice that they weren't sticking to like one tone or one note throughout the film. It wasn't like completely serious. It wasn't completely emotional. It wasn't completely funny. It was a nice blend throughout the film. Um, and like the scene where again go back to Kilmer, the scene where Maverick breaks down about like how he can't let go of the past and like with Goose and what happened, and I just, yeah, again, it's a moment in the film where it was like I think that's the best emotional scene in that film. I hope this movie gets some type of credit, bro. Like if not a visual effects award or even for that one scene with Kilmer, man. That one scene with Kilmer was like it was on par with if you've seen Star Trek lately, the Star Trek Picard, where um, John Luke and Q have their final meeting. Apparently, it was a nice emotional scene. Um, it was kind of like that. It was just this, old friends coming back together and helping them out, and it's just that was really. I actually cried in this movie. I'm not gonna lie. I cried in the second movie. Like not like bawling cry, but like it was just a you should have a tear in that moment. Like and it was that was the other that was another funny moment. Val Kilmer asked him, who's the better pilot, and then Maverick comes back and he's like, let's not ruin a good moment. And then they hug, and like you just kind of shed a little tear, and it was just really a great scene together. Um, let's see, is this thing going? Yeah, it's still going. Just double checking. I'm gonna say it up front. I like the picture that I made for the thumbnail. That took me like all day to do that. I like to make that. I think that's a really good um, thumbnail for a YouTube video. That's just me. I'm biased, but that worked out really well. Now, what else? Yeah, all I have to do is point to it like right here. So like this thumbnail, I just think it's great. It's amazing. Now, what else I didn't like about the film? I didn't. Well, I wish it was a little more different than like a beat for beat of the same movie, the first one. Like the only major difference they change is towards the end where he gets shot down, and they don't mention who the bad guys are. That's the other thing. I wish they would have picked the enemy specifically. Have the balls to do it. Just do it. Oh no, I can't upset this one country and all their money that they make. Dude, just get over it. You're gonna lose some. I mean, this is a pro-American movie. Like it's not. I mean, this came out on Memorial Day weekend, and I watched the trailer for the first one, and apparently this came out in like February. Maybe not. I have to relook that up. But like, come to think about it, it's probably the DVD or Blu-ray of Top Gun 1 that came out in February. But yeah, I give more credit to the first one for being more of an original, whereas this one's more of a copycat. But when they do the copycat, it's actually a cleaner version of it, if that makes sense. So like, and I use the comparison of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 that they came out with a little while back. It's basically the same exact game as the original, the first two, but they updated all the skins and like they added Jack Black and like, but it's basically the same game, right? And that's kind of what they did here. Is that they re-updated the script, the same beats, and then they changed the ending around a little bit. And but overall, I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So yeah, I mean, it was a good call. I just wish it was a little bit different. Like I wish the mission was different. Like maybe, I mean, story structure wise, right? If you're making a sequel, then maybe I don't know. Maybe like if they were thrown into like if like for example like maybe they started the movie off where he's already teaching Top Gun, right? Instead of being called into Top Gun, maybe he's already teaching it, and then in the process of teaching these students throughout the film, he's getting them ready for the next step, but he doesn't know the mission. You know what I'm saying? Or I just wish they could have done just a little bit different. Not so much beat for beat. But other than that, no, I really don't have that many criticisms of the second film. Let me think what else. If there's anything that really stands out. Even the reenactment of the beach scene, the beach volleyball scene, they were playing football on the beach this time, but they made it in a way that it wasn't just beefcake, right? It wasn't just about objectification. Now there was still objectification, and having guys with shirtless. And the one chick, Phoenix, she was in a sports bra. Okay, if you're gonna go, I just think equal opportunity objectivism. That's just me. if you're gonna objectify, one person in a scene, might as well go all out. I might as well objectify everybody. Everybody gets naked. And no, obviously I'm kidding. So, but that's a really great team building, and it's they set it up so that way John Hamm calls it out. He's like, you know, he Maverick says, "You told me to build a team," and there they are, and and they're working together. It was a great, even they were able to update that even better than the original, right? I just thought that was really great. What else? Um, I wish that at least one person would have died. If there was at least some serious consequences at the end of the film, that like maybe Maverick. I don't. I didn't want Maverick to die. If I had to pick, that's a good question. If I had to pick, who would die? Hmm. Now that's a toughie because some of those fighter jets they had uh, what's the main pilot and the guy behind the pilot. I forgot what that's called. Like the assistant, like the one who like dropped who like Bob. Bob was he was sitting behind Phoenix, right? Now, if for some reason Phoenix and Bob were shot at, and then she escaped, and then he had to eject or something, but that wouldn't work because they're in the same sea. They're in the same thing, so you can't do that. Or maybe one of the enemy fighters gets a close call with the machine gun and then clips Bob through the wind, and then she has to drive, or not drive, but she has to fly back with Bob in the back seat dead, or something like that. That might have been too harsh. But I think they could have played it like that. That somebody could have died where it could have gave a little more weight to what they're doing, right? Instead of just fun and games. Hangman was completely useless to me. I didn't. He was literally an imitation of Iceman, even in the name. Um, but he could have been completely. There was no point to him being in the film except for the very end when he comes in and then saves Maverick and Rooster. Again, Rooster. Um, yeah, no, I think they could have had that scene with Coyote or one of the other teammates that were there. Somebody could have swooped in. Anybody could have swooped in, but yeah, Hangman was really useless in the film. I thought it's just the way they it wasn't even him specifically. It was the the lack of writing they gave him. He was felt really one dimensional, and I didn't like that. Um, but I like Bob. Bob. I mean, I didn't like his call name. He could have had like something like Geezer or something. I don't know. He could have again. He could have had a better nickname, Squirt, or something nerdy. Like I don't know, Beaker or something. I don't know, but like they could have made something up, right? I just think Bob really, but I like Bob. I like Phoenix, and some of the other people. Who was the Coyote? I like Coyote. Um, yeah, no, that's pretty much what I got to say about that. What else? What else? What else? What else? This movie, I think, is going to make a lot of money. It is. I heard opening night. It was 150 million. So one thing I don't want them to do is, I don't want them to cash in and make a third one. I don't want them to make Top Gun 3 in 3 years. I don't want them to do that. I don't care if you have to wait another 30 years for the next generation to get older and do this thing again. But I don't know. Honestly, I think two is the maximum you're going to get out of this run. Even if it's a spinoff, don't do the spinoff. Just let it sit, because these movies are good enough to where they are. This is a nice position for them to be in, accumulatively between the two, because the first one isn't bad. It's not outright bad. It's got a good rating, fair good rating, 6.9 IMDb. This new movie is actually the same movie but better. So I would, if I had to give it a rating, with the updated visuals, with the updated story, the characters, the emotional beats, I've heard. I want to give it like an 8.2 out of 10. Um, yeah, the first. Now remember, the first one I gave a 7.3. I'm giving the first movie a 7.3. The second movie, I'm gonna give it an 8.2. So it's a good point above the first one, and that's because they corrected a lot of the same beats that they did the first one. It's again, it's a reskinning or retexturing of the movie, with a little bit of updates. Um, but again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way it works. So yeah, I would have to say that the second movie is better than the first movie, and that's what I have to say about that. And that has been my rant. This actually was been going on for about 45 minutes. I was hoping to do about an hour, but yeah, it is what it is. I kind of skipped. It's funny because I've been talking. Technically, I've been talking about it for 2 hours. I started the stream at 7, and I forgot to hit go live for an hour. So it's 8 o'clock, and then I started talking about it, and I covered like a lot of the same things twice. Um, I can't believe I did that. But yeah, I would definitely recommend see the first one before you're watching the second. You don't have to. You don't have to watch the first one, but it definitely does add character depth, and especially, you know what I would say, watch the first one because there's a direct connection between his best friend Goose and his son. That's a really great connection. Um, you might be a little thrown off from Jennifer Connelly because the way they introduce her character. That was another thing. I wish they had like a scene or two, like maybe a few years prior when Rooster was trying to go for Top Gun and he didn't get it. Like he said that they had to push him back 4 years. They should have had a small scene or like a two where he's with Jennifer Connelly during that time, and they're together, and then at the same time he has an argument with Rooster about getting in, and that would have been nice. It seems like there was a cut scene of a flashback. Maybe they took it out. One thing I didn't like in they've been doing in more movies lately, the Matrix, whatever the hell it is, the last Matrix movie, they overdid this. They literally take scenes from the first movie and then play it in the second movie. Now, this one they did it as a flashback with the Great Balls of Fire, but when I mentioned earlier, they should have had an updated version of that. They should have done some new song, or at least a newer song than that, not a direct copy. Um, Even with that, they could still have the flashback between him seeing like him being reminded of Goose. They could have easily done that transition. Like they're listening to a fun song that they all know that's of their age appropriateness, right? And then let's say the music starts fading down, and then it goes to silence, and all of a sudden you see our Rooster, and he's acting just like his dad in the second, from the first one, and then in the second one, Maverick sees that and has that quiet moment because the music is down, and then he has like a direct flashback to his dad, or to Goose, right? I think they could have played it that way. I think that would have been a nice, better way to play it. But again, that's just me. It's a little nitpicky. And most of the things I don't like about the film is nitpicky stuff. It's not like, I think that the reason why I give 8.2 is because of mostly because of the weight of other films are better than this film, and that does not necessarily subtract from the the actual value I have for the film. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just there are some like if comparing like let's say 10 out of 10 would be like a Back to the Future or Jurassic Park or um, a Schindler's List or like Casablanca or something like that, right? You're those type of great films. So comparing it to that on a 10, this is like a yeah, like a low 8, right? I mean, it's good and it's got great visual. It's definitely a entertaining movie, but it's still a rehashing, and so there's reasons why I don't give it a full 9 or higher. Um, that's really all I have to say about the two movies. If you stuck through this whole thing with me, I appreciate it. Thank you, and like, subscribe. If you don't like what I have to say, leave a comment. If you do like what I have to say, leave a comment. All the fun stuff. I am Audi 5000. Deuces.